Hello and welcome to the CDO Magazine interview series. I'm Sanjay Acharya with HiLabs. We're partnering with CDO Magazine, MIT, and CDO IQ and the International Society of Chief Data Officers for a series of interviews. Today, I have the great pleasure of talking with Luis Velandia, Chief Data Officer at Best Doctors Insurance. Hi, Luis, how are you?
Hi, how are you? Thank you very much.
Great to have you here. So we'll be discussing three different topics. And the first one we want to start out with is about governance and data quality with a theme on managing risk. So my first question to you is, what different data governance processes have you seen in your experience? And in that data governance process, do you tend to favor a centralized approach where you have centralized governance, or a more decentralized approach, or some sort of hybrid? What have you seen and what's been?
No. Thank you very much. And that's a great question. Yes, I've had the chance to see different types of data governance processes throughout my career in consultancy and in the corporate world. I would say that they have their pros and cons, yes. And to be honest, not a single data governance model fits all organizations. So, for example, the decentralized approach is based on individual businesses and users maintaining their own master data, for example. This one actually works best for small organizations and actually provides simpler data maintenance and can make faster data setup. However, if it is not managed properly, the users can see large inconsistencies in data. On the other hand, we have the centralized governance one, which is based on multiple business units centralizing the maintenance of master data. In this approach, one central organization owns setting up master data based on requests coming from the consumers of master data. I believe this one actually works better for large kind of medium organizations, and it clearly brings complex requirements. It requires things like larger systems and a master data to be distributed to different systems. And finally, we have, I would say, the hybrid one, which is the centralized data governance and decentralized execution. This one is an interesting approach, as it has a centralized body defining the framework and the individual businesses creating their parts of master data. It works best for large or medium organizations, and it also brings a complete data requirements, but it requires agility in the creation of master data. My message here is that regardless of the approach, the organizations should have a robust data governance programs focused on the critical data elements and the data assets that will provide long-term value to the organization. Now, if you're asking me which one I favor the most, I would say something in between, something with the full recognition that data governance is not for example, a one-time project. It is a cultural skill. It needs to be built into an organization's culture and technical backbone. And this means, from my point of view, empowering business leaders and educating end users to be effective data owners. And this is a cross-functional effort. So something in between, I would say, is because, based on what I mentioned before, there must be a centralized area supporting the organization with the definition of the policies, procedures, standards, best practices, controls, and the tooling to ensure its applicability. But decentralized in a way that these are implemented by each of the business units, becoming accountable for the results and the outputs of that ownership, including their data domains. So what I want to say here is that this should be aligned to an enterprise level approach. And again, one of my key points is data culture starts from the top, right? It starts from the executives. Data governance is everyone's job. And this should be every company's motto. It's not the job of a bunch of data stewards or the data governance manager. It's everybody's job. And if you generate data, if you consume data, you own data, you need to participate in protecting the data for the organization. So yes, it definitely starts from the top, and it's a culture that needs to be built through awareness, education throughout the parts of the business. So I would say that from my experience, this type of mindset helps to build a true data culture in an organization.
Okay, great. Thank you. That was really helpful. I like it's very good to see kind of all the different potential models, what the pros and cons are, and then also that it's more about not necessarily an approach, but also like building an organization-wide culture. And also at the end of your answer, you'd kind of mentioned security as being a critical part of data governance. Another area that is thought to be pretty critical for data governance is data quality. So I was wondering if either through your experience at Best Doctors or in past organizations, could you give us some idea as to different approaches or how you best managed to your data quality and ensuring that it's high quality for whatever purposes it's used for in terms of analytics or other areas?
Yeah, no, good. That's interesting. It's an interesting question. From my experience in the industry, not only private health insurance, banking, mining, etc., I've seen organizations being very proactive to monitor the data quality, where the data governance programs were fully adopted to establish a sustainable, like a long-term data quality improvement environment and culture. So the idea has been always to focus not only on the data quality as the main driver for the implementation of their data governance programs, but also to improve the things like acquisition, management, and dissemination of data for key data domains. Some of the organizations I worked for used and implemented data quality management processes, starting from things like data profiling to basically explore the data to gain an in-depth understanding of it and to identify its issues such as inaccuracy, incompleteness, inconsistency, etc. And defining, of course, metrics related to established quality benchmark to understand the severity of those data issues. On the other hand, we have things like data matching to deduplicate databases, finding matching entities across several data sources, and data quality reporting, which is obviously a key one from my point of view, including these data quality KPIs such as completeness of data, consistency of data, validity of data. It's super important that we should be able to track and monitor these type of things to understand whether we've been successful or not. If in some of the organizations and clients, we used interesting data quality tools. That's important to mention as well. You can use Excel and those type of things, but there are tools out there that actually, in my case, help us to go through this process in a more agile manner. For areas like, for example, data discovery and profiling, and things like how to manage data quality rules, identify problems, resolve issues, and monitor things continuously.
Got it. Okay, so a bit of a combination of using the right tools and platforms to discover those errors, and then also managing those reports well and paying attention to where those metrics are falling.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, great. And then I guess continuing on that theme of data quality, I guess when inevitably, right, in all organizations, right, at some point you'll have some sort of quality issue discovered. How have you seen like organizations determine what the right data is in that type of situation? So if you have something that's incorrect, how are you kind of figuring out what is right or what is the source of truth?
Yeah, that's a good one. Look, I believe that if an organization has, and that's my initial message is, if an organization has bad data quality, it will not have good information quality. Okay, so with bad information quality, the organizations will lack, actionable knowledge in business operations. In other words, what I'm trying to say is bad data quality is not healthy for businesses at all. So from my experience, the determination of what the right data is when there's not a clear source of truth should be mainly based on whether the data quality issues have an impact or not on meeting core objectives. Okay, so essentially what I'm trying to say here is or what I've done in the past, is to focus on 4 key areas. One is about understanding of the data quality issues and its impact on meeting key business objectives. For example, we use like a data quality checklist to understand whether the data quality issues are related to things I mentioned before, like inaccuracy, completeness, precision, integrity, etc. The other one is about identifying the data source and systems or system of where the data points linked to the data quality issues are ingested, stored, and consumed. The third one, from my point of view, is about identifying what's the data domain, like member, customer, or provider, these data points and issues are related to. And finally, and one of the critical things for me, actually analytics as a whole, is about tracking and monitoring and quantifying specific metrics. In this case, quantifying the data quality issues to have a picture of the impact on the business decisions.
Got it. Okay. Okay. And I guess continuing in that area, right? What are the biggest risks, I guess, you've seen or maybe unfortunately felt from poor data quality in your past, and what was, tell us a little bit of a story around that, like, when that quality issue happened, or what kind of risk did you incur and how was that kind of resolved?
Yeah, well, I think there are many risks associated with poor data quality, but I would like to, maybe focus on 2 of them. From my experience, the biggest risk I have seen is that poor data quality reduces confidence. In other words, poor data quality can slow critical decision-making and reduce operational productivity. Things like inaccurate analysis and reporting, bad decisions based on incorrect definitions, or arguments over which data is appropriate or trusted. That for me is the key one. The second one is more related to the cost of bad data. I mean, the lack of precise, up-to-date data at critical points has significant top line and bottom line impact. And I can say there's impact on revenue loss due to poor data quality, and there's no doubt about it. I would say, and I want just to refer to some surveys I've found recently. And one is, for example, this is from Deloitte's Global CPO surveys from past year, including I think it's 2021. They basically mentioned that poor data quality is listed as the top challenge, with availability of data being, I think, the eighth position. There's another one, which is the Harvard Business Review, where they basically shared an estimate from 2016 that poor data quality issues cost the US alone 3.1 trillion. That's impressive, like, wow. And the third one, there's another study from Harvard Business Review. It was about data credibility. And it actually revealed that 50% of the time is wasted on locating data, identifying its errors, and or confirming its accuracy. And I've found, there are more surveys sent and filled out more than 10 years ago with similar results. So this makes me reflect on the fact that things have not improved, even though there's more data out there. In other words, what I'm trying to say here is people have not really, paid attention as much on this throughout all these years.
I think that concludes our interview. So I want to thank you again, Luis, for joining me today. And for the audience out there, please visit cdomagazine.tech for additional interviews just like this.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Sanjay, for having me.